Here at Adelaide, Australia's glorious city of churches, the Formula One world has regathered for the last Grand Prix of 1992 at the end of an historic and momentous season. A season dominated by Nigel Mansell, who's broken just about every record in the book to win his first World Championship after 13 years of effort. And at this superb circuit with expectations running high in an enormous crowd, just one question remains. Can Mansell achieve a record 10th win in one season in his last Formula One race before commencing a new Indy racing career in America next year?
I am optimistic. I wouldn't say I'm confident, but I'm certainly optimistic if I can get a good start. I think that our car is a little bit better on full tanks than perhaps a McLaren. If I don't get into the lead on the first corner, I think then we're going to have big problems, because as the race goes on, I believe that the McLaren on half tanks and empty tanks is quicker than the Williams around this type of circuit. They've demonstrated their acceleration out the corners here again across the start and finish line. They're the quickest car by far. We're not quite competitive with them on the acceleration. So it goes without saying that here overtaking is a problem. And that's why, qualifying is a premium.
Adelaide may be Nigel's last race in Formula One, but there's been no slackening in his dedication. Watch for the lights, red and then the green. Perfect, Mansell gets away beautifully. Patrese closes up on Senna. Everybody is getting away. Mansell leads, Senna second, Patrese third, Schumacher is up to fourth, Alesi is fifth, Berger is down to sixth, Brundle is seventh, there's a spinner, it's one of the Delaras, and Berger is out already, having deranged the front wing on the left-hand side, and of course the wheel with it. It was Martini who spun in the Delara. He probably won't be too unhappy to be out. He's had a dreadful practice, but on lap one, as the furious Pierluigi Martini stalks away from his car, hopping with rage, Senna is challenging Mansell, Patrese is third, Schumacher is fourth, Alesi brilliantly up to fifth position, down to sixth goes Gerhard Berger, and now is the time for the Williams to try to get away. But this is the time when McLaren will be strongest, and Senna goes through. Senna leads, Mansell retakes it. Wow, already the Titans are fighting. Well, we always knew that this Australian Grand Prix was a potential ripper, and it's turning out to be just that. Mansell leads Senna.
Tremendous stuff. Ayrton Senna making a bid. That was a real do-or-die effort. He's frightened that Mansell's going to get away, because the superiority of the Williams was there in practice. It was there in the warm-up this morning, not in Mansell's case because he had an engine problem, but certainly in the case of Patrese, and Senna is really charging. He was fabulous in front. Now, a replay of the start, and we'll see problem with Griard in the middle of the grid there. He launches Martini up into the air, and you see Herbert's Lotus got very held up, and in fact Herbert's has damaged the front wing on Herbert's Lotus as well. So once again, poor Johnny Herbert seems to have got tangled.
And there's the footwork spinning on the straight. It's poor Michele Alboreto, the man who had got an unchallenged finishing record, and that's Gugelmin hitting his wing. They're coming down the end of the Brabham Straight towards racetrack hairpin. So already there are 3 retirements. Well, there you can see the gap. Patrese third, right behind him is Schumacher, right behind him is Gerhard Berger. So, Williams leads, McLaren second, Williams third, Benetton fourth, and up to fourth position goes Gerhard Berger inside Schumacher.
Yes, Berger got the toe on the straight then, outbraked Schumacher into the racetrack hairpin at the end of the Brabham Straight, and now he will set about Patrese. Patrese's been holding both of this pair up. View from Schumacher's car and Berger's back view there through the Foster's hairpin. And McLaren, certainly the V12 Honda, very good on acceleration there. And Berger will be trying to get close to Patrese as they go out onto the Brabham Straight. But quite a few corners yet before they get into that position. But this is the battle. Mansell was able to go quick enough onto Brabham Straight to reduce the threat from Senna of outbraking at the end of the straight, which is the main and obvious overtaking spot on this circuit. Now, this is the important part of the circuit for Berger. Can he get close enough? There are the leaders. Mansell leads. But Senna starting to struggle to hold on. Behind them is Patrese in the background with Berger rather, trying to get close, trying to get the toe. And not close enough. Patrese is safe this time.
Gerhard Berger in the red and white McLaren won the Australian Grand Prix in 1987 in 4 Ferrari. He was third to Ayrton Senna and Nigel Mansell in the appalling wet 14-lap race last year, and veteran Riccardo Patrese continues to hold third position in his 240th Grand Prix. What a race already, and indeed when this race began after the warm-up, 4/10 of a second covered the first four on the grid, 1/10 of a second covered 5th to 7th, and another second covered everybody down to 19th, and down spins Hakkinen.
Being pressed there by De Cesaris, and that was appeared to be a mistake by Hakkinen. I didn't think De Cesaris gave him a nudge, but he was certainly This at the moment is the battle up front. Still Mansell just fending off Ayrton Senna, who's put on Voss's lap, and there goes Gugelmin.
In exactly the same place where Niki Lauda lost the lead years ago in his McLaren, and the Jordan Yamaha slithers along the wall. It looked to me as though Gugelmin was all right, because the tub of the car, the carbon fibre chassis, did not seem to have been harmed. It knocked on the left front wheel, suspension and part of the side pod. But so that's a fourth retirement.
And the furiousness of this race, you see 1:18.3 for Ayrton Senna as the fastest lap. We are about to break the old lap record, because that was set 2 years ago in 1990 by Nigel Mansell in the Ferrari, and that reasonably reflects the pace of development that's gone on since then, because lap records don't normally get broken so early in a race when the cars are still full of fuel. Patrese, third place, now with a little bit of clear air between himself and a frustrated Gerhard Berger.
This is the Jack Brabham Straight, which leads into the right-hander at racetrack corner. Berger has a go, but Riccardo Patrese is wise to it, and he moves across, holds his line, holds his racing line, nothing illegal about that. Berger is pushing all the time. Mansell has gone through, and he is now on his 14th lap out of 81, leading Ayrton Senna by 1.4 seconds. The Brazilian is holding on magnificently. It's a similar battle for third and fourth with the Williams and the McLaren. That's the Williams, behind it the McLaren. Behind the McLaren, the green and yellow Benetton Ford of German Michael Schumacher, still in his first full season of Grand Prix racing. He's won one Grand Prix this year, marvellous achievement, and he is in fourth position in the World Championship. And Mansell has got another tail ender in front of him. I saw a flash of a scarlet car. It might be a Dallara, it might be a Ferrari. Now this is the completion of the lap, and it is Nicola Larini in the actively suspended Ferrari that Mansell is about to lap with other cars. Now this is Senna's golden opportunity. He, like Mansell, can see the cars ahead that the world champion is closing up onto lap, and Senna will try to close on Mansell in the hope of being able to exploit an opportunity.
Yes, he will have seen, as Mansell will have seen, the back markers moving up and put on a maximum speed spurt to try and get away from Senna. Senna will be trying to get close as we look at the battle now for third place, with Patrese a little bit more breathing space from Berger than he's had when we were last looking at the battle. So Berger's car understeering a bit there as he went in, and of course that's the enemy of speed. It's the comfier way to drive a car, but it's not the quick way. You've got understeer. And Berger by no means close enough, and there are the leaders, and Senna really trying with the back markers, and that's just what he was looking for. He got close enough, and we missed it, but Senna must have had a real go then, and there's still a car in front of them.
Go out! Senna, Mansell was destined not to finish the Australian Grand Prix, and that's exactly the same situation for Ayrton Senna that he was in the previous year with his left wheel, and Mansell is furious! You have destroyed my opportunity of winning the 10th Grand Prix of the year, and Ayrton Senna, with Nigel Mansell's body language saying a mixture of resignation and fury, and that is... well, Senna stalks away.
And what a pity for the race to finish like that, particularly for Nigel Mansell, who one would have to say was the innocent party in that. Hopefully we'll see a replay of that. It happened so quickly, I found it difficult to see. Well, here we go. Now, Senna was trying to take advantage of the back marker situation. He tries to get inside Mansell. He loses the back of his car, and Nigel Mansell, absolutely the innocent party in that. Ayrton Senna really sticking his neck out, going for it. And what a pity that the race should finish in that way. And a great shame for Nigel Mansell, going indeed for yet another win.
And who leads now as Mansell walks furiously into the garage, having been wronged and very much so by Ayrton Senna. That's the leader, Riccardo Patrese, the man who won in Japan, took his 6th victory. They both move inside Jan Lammers, they both, being Riccardo Patrese and Gerhard Berger. And now it's still a battle between Williams and McLaren on lap 21 out of 81. But it is not Mansell and Senna, it's Patrese and Berger. Well, so Patrese leads, Berger second, Schumacher up to third, Martin Brundle is well up in the points again in 4th position, Jorna Lacey in the Ferrari is in 5th place, Andrea De Cesaris is in the points again at 6th position, Modena is highest ever, 7th position, and Berger challenges for the lead and takes it! Wowee! No, he doesn't. Patrese takes it back. Now that is a classic example of overcooking things. Berger was hard on the brakes, and his tyres smoked. He lost his line, and Riccardo Patrese had got it and went through.
Yes, he had to go for it. He got himself in a position. Patrese protected the inside. Quite rightly, you see Patrese making Berger go the long way round for the corner. And Berger, you see the big back marks where he locked his brakes, couldn't slow down enough. So Berger now has got to regain that lost ground to Patrese, but I don't think that'll be a problem for him. Gather himself up and try and mount another attack.
There's De Cesaris stopping. And Modena goes through. Knudsen goes through. That's De Cesaris on fire in the Tyrrell. My goodness. Andrea De Cesaris was in the points, so he's out of them now. Very much so. And that is another retirement. That is retirement 7 to join Olivier Griard, Michele Alboreto, Pierluigi Martini, Maurizio Gugelmin, Nigel Mansell, Ayrton Senna, and now Andrea De Cesaris. Schumacher.
Yes, Riccardo, poor chap, is the one feeling the stress at the moment. But a bit of relief then, and it is a tremendous relief when you see your pursuer, as Christian Fittipaldi is just going past, get stuck in behind, and you can put a back marker between you and your pursuer, as happened at the end of the straight before. Berger gets through, he bullies his way past Christian Fittipaldi, who has plenty of time to see him, so it wasn't a risky manoeuvre by Berger, but it was an important one for him to be able to maintain his chase of Riccardo Patrese, because still there's traffic ahead.
Yes, having passed Christian Fittipaldi, the next target is Mika Häkkinen in the Lotus, and Mika Häkkinen is in 10th place on this, the 31st lap, so we're getting up towards half distance. My goodness, doesn't time fly when you're enjoying yourself? Riccardo Patrese, I hope, is, as you can see the gap now between him and Gerhard Berger, the Italian who is on target at the present moment for his 7th career victory. What a wonderful way for this tremendously popular man who's been racing for so long to finish his career with Williams Renault. We think, and I say we think because although he signed a contract for Benetton, it is rumoured that the Williams team have been trying to get him back. There are so many rumours flying around here in Adelaide that we really haven't known what to believe. If half of them come true, it's going to be a sensational 1993. Schumacher laps Christian Fittipaldi, who is in 11th place. There is Leto, there is Gasho, that is Nicola Larini, who is 14th, and Martin Brundle in the Benetton there is in 4th position, coming up to deal with the lapping problem himself. Now, Martin Brundle, just as Schumacher is driving a superb race in a superb season. The Benetton team is the only one that has scored points in every Grand Prix this year, and at the present moment, Berger's been into the pits, and Schumacher moves up to 2nd.
I suspect Berger thinks he was losing grip then, because if you notice, without the benefit of traffic, he seemed to be losing ground each time to Riccardo Patrese, so I would suspect that was a routine tyre change for Gerhard Berger. And he should certainly been able to get out ahead. Yes, he's in 3rd place. He got away ahead of Martin Brundle.
Well, that really was sensational. Gerhard Berger sprints into the pits to take on a new set of tyres, because the heavier weight of the McLaren and the fact that Gerhard Berger is notoriously hard on tyres. If ever the tyre technicians are worried about anybody in a race, it's Berger. Now, you see Riccardo Patrese crossing the line, and he leads Michael Schumacher by just under 5 seconds, but the German is lapping faster, 1 minute 19.2, and Patrese's previous lap was 1 minute 20.9. So, my goodness, we are faced with the exciting prospect of seeing a third leader in the Australian Grand Prix. And look, you can see shadows on the circuit. Isn't that great?
And at the same time, Gerhard Berger on his first flying lap has gone quicker than either of the leaders. Schumacher down to 3 seconds now behind Patrese and in hot pursuit. And certainly the McLaren of the 3 leading chassis one would expect to be the hardest and heaviest on the tyres. And certainly Gerhard Berger seems to have got an uplifted performance on his very first flying lap. And we'll watch his progress. He is, at the moment, as they crossed the line last time, 9 seconds adrift of Michael Schumacher, and apart from catching him, he's got to pass him, and then if he could do that, he'd be faced with the problem he was having before. But it'll be interesting to see how the tyre tactics work out as Mika Hakkinen disappears with more traffic as well in front of Riccardo Patrese.
Now, Michael Schumacher has got an incredibly mature tactical head on his 23-year-old shoulders, and he can see that Riccardo Patrese is closing up on Hakkinen, who is in 10th place, who's got just ahead of him Aguri Suzuki, who's got just ahead of him in 8th place Gianni Morbidelli. There they are, and Schumacher will know that this is his chance. He has been catching Riccardo Patrese for the last 3 laps. If he can close those few feet, he will be in a position, if Patrese puts a wheel wrong, to take the lead from the Williams Renault. Now, I talked to the Benetton technicians just before this race began. I asked them how they felt about it, and they said, we are very, very confident, we are in great shape. The car has proved its reliability as Patrese passes Hakkinen. No, he doesn't. Right, now this is Schumacher's chance.
And Schumacher looks to have been doing just what one would have hoped he would be, in a very experienced, mature performance. He seems to, it now looks as if he was playing a waiting game, sitting behind the Berger-Patrese battle, because he's clearly speeded up, and he's closed right in. When Berger went into the pits, he was over 5 seconds adrift. And he's now 1.2 seconds behind Patrese, and Patrese is still stuck in the traffic, and this will be helping Gerhard Berger as well.
You may say, why doesn't Mika Hakkinen move over and let him through? But you're not driving the car. Mika Hakkinen's got a problem, and the problem is he's trying to maintain his position and catch and get past Aguri Suzuki ahead of him. All right, he can see Patrese in his mirrors, and maybe he should move over. The young Finn is a very, very capable driver. We're with Schumacher, it's Patrese in front. So Patrese closes right up. You can see him going through on the right, but Hakkinen closes again. Hakkinen again closes the door, and I think we may see a bit of Italian fist shaking, not without justification, and Patrese's through. So Hakkinen moves over. Now, what about Schumacher? No, Hakkinen closes the door. That's it, in our face, slam. Into lap 40. Move over, Sunshine, says Schumacher. But Sunshine isn't having any. In the pits, Martin Brundle, and he was in 4th position. Now the gap between Brundle and Alesi, who's 5th, was 30 seconds, so Martin has had time to take on new tyres. He's only the 2nd driver to have done so. Gerhard Berger was the 1st. We weren't necessarily expecting any tyre changes. Schumacher. Well, you see that footwork really moves. He's keeping ahead of Schumacher's Benetton Ford.
Yes, indeed. The V10 Illusion is very definitely a good engine. And Berger's going to pull out. Berger's going to get in. He's inside Michael Schumacher. And that was fine driving by Gerhard Berger, but a lapse by Schumacher. He caught him unawares. He was caught napping then because he didn't move over to defend his place. And he was too busy getting a tow off the other car. And Michael will be kicking himself for that. And he's headed well. It doesn't matter. He's going to make it irrelevant. He's going for tyres. So it's now up the front. It's a matter of Berger on fresh rubber against Patrese on old rubber, trying to go the distance. And Patrese will certainly not have put as much wear on the tyres.
Michael Schumacher down to third position because he was far enough ahead of Martin Brundle to hold his place. And the race order now on lap 44 is Riccardo Patrese leading. Here he is. And that is Morbidelli, who has spun out, and he was in 8th position.
Yes, and as we watch Morbidelli, whoops, and he's overcooked that one. I hope he hasn't stalled the engine doing that. He's making a bit of a mess of that, but he finally gets away. It is starting to rain, possibly, on the circuit. We've got a serious threat of it anyway, and Patrese stopped. Patrese, and Berger takes the lead. And what happened to Riccardo Patrese?
Well, your guess is as good as mine. Renault have had marvellously reliable engines, but in this truly dramatic race, we now have a third leader. And I think it must be something mechanical, because you can see the car stationary on the circuit, and it's right on the racing line of the exit to the corner as a baffled Riccardo Patrese looks for a way out. There's a gap there, Riccardo. Off you go. Well, Mansell was destined not to win the race. Riccardo Patrese was too. But is it going to be a McLaren victory? It ought to be, because now Gerhard Berger is some 15 seconds ahead of Michael Schumacher. Berger leads, Schumacher second, Brundle is third. As you look down, Brundle is closing up on the V12 Lamborghini-powered Minardi of Christian Fittipaldi, and in front of him is his teammate Gianni Morbidelli. The clouds are getting lower, but the spots of rain have not developed. That light that keeps flicking on and off just over his steering wheel indicates when the rev limiter is coming in and it's time for him to change gear.
Surmised, it was a transmission problem with Patrese's car, in that he must have turned into the hairpin, put his foot down and got no gears, or unable to get a gear, which is why he was unable to coast to a safe place. Michael Schumacher trying to fight his way past Modena and past Manners' March.
Well, we've had the news, of course, that Nigel Mansell is with the physiotherapist. He's hurt his back a bit, hurt his leg a bit, but as far as I know, and very hopefully indeed, it's nothing serious. He would have taken a tremendous jarring when Senna's McLaren went into the back of him. Hanging on well. It's a superb race again for the Benetton team, second and third, and although they've got a very healthy budget indeed, it's not to be compared with the budgets that the McLaren and the Williams teams enjoy, and it looks at the present moment as though Benetton are going to go through the Australian Grand Prix with their proud record of finishing in every 1992 Grand Prix unbroken. And that is a Lacey, who is fourth, being caught by Berger, the leader.
If they succeed in scoring points in this race, Benetton, it will be the first time since 1963 that any team has scored points in every Grand Prix. And Murray is looking at me in total amazement because I don't normally know anything in terms of facts. But I have to confess, somebody told me that yesterday. That, funny enough, the extraordinary thing about the statistic is that the team that you would least expect to have done it, it was Lotus who did it in 1963, and Lotus were not noted in those days for their reliability. And but one thing you can also say is that this is a more substantive record by Benetton, because I don't know how many Grand Prix there were in 63, but not nearly as many as the 16 we have now.
Well, I didn't know that. We learn something new every day. Thank you, James. Lap 61, and it's the potentially victorious Gerhard Berger on his way to his second Australian Grand Prix. First in 1987, race leader now in 1992, having come through and made an early decision about changing tyres. He was the first man in on lap 36, and I said at the time, mildly critically, that Berger was well known to be so very hard on tyres that he'd had to come in very, very early, probably to his disadvantage. Well, it was just the reverse, because then when Mansell and Senna already out of the race, Berger was able to take the lead from Riccardo Patrese when the Italian had the, we assume, gearbox seize on his Williams Renault. It's an unhappy race for Renault, of course, but they really haven't got anything to complain about. They've won 10 Grand Prix already this season, 9 from Nigel Mansell, 1 from Riccardo Patrese, and it's nice to see the honours being shared a bit. But I was going to say much criticised McLaren team. That wouldn't be the right thing to say. McLaren, Senna has been saying all season the car is not good enough, and in comparison with the Williams, of course, he is right. But the McLaren is still a superlatively good car, and so is the Benetton, because now you can see that Michael Schumacher is in a lap record-breaking mode, but that's only 0.02 of a second faster than Gerhard Berger's lap record previously, and he's some 24 seconds behind the Austrian. So whilst it's a stirring performance, sadly it's not good enough to make any difference to the lead. Reverting to the McLaren situation, McLaren have produced all through the years a magnificent motor car. This year the chassis wasn't quite as good as the Williams, and the Honda engine wasn't quite as good as the Renault, but really in percentage terms there was very little in it.
report that Patrese stopped with the transmission failure. It is correct that the car just didn't go, but we now hear that the engine cut out.
In 1985, when the first Australian Grand Prix was held, the slogan was Adelaide alive, and it's certainly alive now. It's alive because for the last 7 laps, Michael Schumacher has broken the previous lap record, which he himself had put up. Berger well and truly on his way for his second Grand Prix victory of 1992, having won in Canada, and Berger is 5th in the championship at the present moment. And look for him, there he is, that's how close he is. Now, Berger is on his way, and Schumacher, the gap is now 7.1 seconds.
And Schumacher definitely hasn't given up. He's still charging. That was a very quick lap he just put in, but Berger is controlling it. Berger also had speeded up a little bit. And it's absolutely right tactically that Schumacher should make this chase, even though there is no realistic chance of him catching and passing Berger on merit. He is now pushing Berger quite rightly for a possible mistake, unlikely in a man of Berger's composure and experience, but he is also pushing Berger to push his car for mechanical failure or even to run out of petrol.
And I do believe Gerhard Berger may be having to slow up a bit. We'll know very, very shortly. 6.3 seconds was the gap. Berger across the line now. And Schumacher across the line now, and it's 6.1 seconds. So Schumacher is closing, but not fast enough. This is lap 80, or is it fast enough? This is lap 80. There's this one and the next one to go.
No, well, Berger, I don't think he can be in any fuel trouble, because if he was, he would have slowed up more than that, because he put in a very quick lap then. So he appears comfortable, not trying to pace himself that closely to Schumacher, and if he was worried about fuel, he certainly would have cut his use of the engine a bit more. But Schumacher still committed that that's only 1.5 laps to go now. Just knocking that right front brake, right front wheel as he turned in. This is what I like to see, a young driver giving it everything all the way to the end of the race, even though there's no realistic chance, doing exactly the right thing to pressure Berger as he starts his Berger on his last lap now. Schumacher over the line, but started his 5.2 seconds behind Gerhard Berger, but he's made Gerhard Berger work all the way to the line, and it really has been a most exciting chase by the young driver of the year, really this year, Michael Schumacher, who has really shown us that he leads the next generation of absolutely top Grand Prix drivers. He is a future champion in the making, with pretenders Mika Häkkinen and Johnny Herbert, both the Lotus drivers, showing a great deal of talent as well. But Michael Schumacher's had an absolutely super season for Benetton. So Berger on his way to the flag.
And Michael Schumacher, fighting to the last inch of the Australian Grand Prix, has given us a magnificent race. As James has said, Nigel Mansell may be the world champion, but the man of the year in many ways has to be Michael Schumacher. They're down to the last corner in Australia for the last Grand Prix of 1992, and certainly the most exciting. Schumacher is going to win. No, he's not. Berger backs off as he crosses the line, and he wins the Australian Grand Prix by 0.7 of a second. Unbelievable. Berger, the winner of the Australian Grand Prix, in his last drive for McLaren Honda. In second place, only 7/10 of a second behind the McLaren after nearly over 300 kilometres, 190 miles, Michael Schumacher. His teammate Martin Brundle in third position, and in fourth place Jean Alesi in the Ferrari.
And now for the winning constructor.
And now the presentations. Well done, Gerhard Berger. Mr. John Large, Vice President of the FIA, hands the trophy to the Honourable...
So a dry and quite magnificent Australian Grand Prix sees a second 1992 win for Gerhard Berger. 7/10 of a second ahead of the year's new superstar, Michael Schumacher. Martin Brundle third with his 9th successive points victory. Jean Alesi fourth. Thierry Boutsen's first points of the year for 5th place, and Stefano Modina's first point for Jordan in 6th position. In the Drivers' Championship, Nigel Mansell, of course, is the victor, with Riccardo Patrese second. Michael Schumacher moves up to 3rd position and Ayrton Senna down to 4th, with Gerhard Berger 5th and Martin Brundle 6th. Williams commandingly win the Constructors' Championship ahead of McLaren, Benetton 3rd, Ferrari 4th and Lotus in 5th position. bitter disappointment here in Adelaide for Nigel Mansell, barged out of the lead and the race by Ayrton Senna and denied a possible 10th record victory. But all his fans wish him all the success in his new career that he's had in Grand Prix racing as they look forward to a new season of Formula One, which begins in South Africa on February the 28th, 1993.
Well, thank you, Ken. I'm sitting here with Gerhard Berger and his two other podium personalities. Gerhard, first of all, congratulations. Eight Grand Prix. This is the 8th Australian Grand Prix. A trouble-free race or not?
No, Australian Grand Prix never is a trouble-free race because it's physically very hard. It's very hard for brakes. It's very hard for fuel consumption. It's hard for tires. It's just you have just to take care about everything. And Adelaide Grand Prix is always a difficult Grand Prix.
You made the first of the tyre stops. Was that a good decision for you?
Yeah.
Obviously it was.
Yeah, it was a perfect decision. It was the right decision. I couldn't understand why Patrese didn't come in after. So it was perfect. I could catch up them both. So I know I will gonna have advantage later on. But then they had troubles with overlapping cars and I could close them and I could overtake Michael. And then I was already under very near to Patrese and then he stopped anyway.
Now, what about fuel? You said it was a borderline case. You said, in fact, you were showing minus fuel on your instrument panel.
Yeah, I had a very bad start, so I lost too many positions on the start, and I was 6th. And then I had to overtake the Ferrari and Michael, and then I pushed very, very hard with Ricciardo. I mean, I'd always tried to overtake him, and under the gearbox I was sliding round, and I used the tires, and I was just giving everything, and that was hard for fuel consumption, and I saw it. But there was nothing to do. I said maybe later on if the car gets light I get back.
One question. There was an accident between Ayrton Senna and Nigel Mansell. Ayrton Senna came up behind Mansell very quickly at Foster's hairpin and heavy impact and took both of them out of the race. I noticed that you were closing up very quickly at the same hairpin on Riccardo Patrese. Was there a difference in your two cars under braking?
I didn't see the accident between the both, but yes, in braking it seems the Williams didn't brake very well on the end of the straight. I mean, Ricciardo could brake late. He didn't brake much earlier than me, but then it looks like he had some fading and it looks like the car just gets white all the time. And my brake really worked good. So, of course, you always try to go in and just to wait until he gets a little bit white that you can go through. That means you have to be under his gearbox in braking, and that means you have not enough downforce. And if you get just a half meter too far, you lose the downforce and you just slide into the other car. I was 2 or 3 times very close to slide into Patrese. But it was the only way. The Renault engine had a quite big torque, and it was so difficult to overtake them.
Well, many congratulations. You're now leaving your McLaren team. You're heading for Ferrari. And Michael Schumacher, another great podium finish for you. Fantastic closing laps. You really caught up in Gerhard. Obviously, a happy race?
Yeah, surely a happy race. I mean, I finished again on the podium or in the points, which was important for me. I had the last 3 races wasn't quite successful for me, and therefore I'm quite happy to finish second. And the best point is I finished 3rd now in the World Championship, and this is quite good for me. I mean, it's my first year and I'm quite happy for this. I'm not quite happy about my tyre stop. I was thinking to make it earlier, and before I made my tyre stop I went into the traffic and had to overtake all the people, and it was quite difficult because they didn't give up and they didn't let me through, and I had to push quite hard. And with the old tyres it was quite difficult. And as soon as I changed then the tyres after I passed them, I came back behind them and I had to pass them again, and I lost quite a lot of time. and I wasn't quite happy with the tyre stop, but anyway, it was the right decision to stop for tyres, otherwise I wouldn't be able to push Gerhard.
Well, many congratulations on your second place and your third in the World Championship. There was another person in his first full year of World Championship racing that finished third in his World Championship, one Scotsman called Stewart, so two S's up there. Martin Brundle, your last race for Benetton this year, a great finish to a very good second half of this season.
Yeah, it's been solid since April. It's my last race of Benetton this year, he said. You never know when I might be back. It's been a great season. I've really loved driving for Camel Benetton Ford. It's been a great chance for me. I think I've done a good job. I don't know what I'm doing next season, but we're going to have a good party tonight. Well, the Benetton team picked up points, which means that you equal the record of the Lotus team when Jim Clark was driving it way back in 1963 of having picked up points in every Grand Prix this year. A tremendous result.